Hey, this is Rocket Brain Surgeon, and today we're looking at the Chi-Ray. This is a Tier 7 Japanese medium tank, and it has one thing that a lot of other tanks don't. That is an autoloader. So you get 3 shots in an autoloader in a Tier 7 medium. That's a pretty unique deal. Each shot deals 130 damage, and there's a 1-second time intra-clip. That means you can fire off 3 shots in 3 seconds, dealing 390 average damage. The reload time for the clip on autoloaders is typically a pain point, with reload times consisting between 30 seconds and a minute. However, the Chi-Ray does not have this downside and reloads comfortably within 8 seconds. So the overall idea of the tank, a medium able to chuck out 400 damage in 3 seconds, is very appealing. In practice, it doesn't quite work that way. The handling of the gun isn't the best, but it isn't the worst either. The penetration on the gun is 155 for the base round AP and 186 for the premium round. However, the premium round is also armor piercing. Armor piercing is better than APCR because it doesn't lose as much penetration over distance and has greater normalization. Normalization means that if it hits the tank at an angle, and there's always an angle, it treats the angle as slightly less steep than otherwise would be the case. Less angles mean more penetrating power, so the premium round at 186 for armor piercing is actually very reliable. However, it's also incredibly expensive. I only load 20 to 30 premium rounds on the tank because the Chi-Ray can fly through them very fast, and before you know it, you've spent 120,000 credits on premium ammo. I've done most of my grinds through Tier 7 when the Russian tanks still had the idiot gun. That's the 100mm Diat, which has 175 penetration, 250 average damage. This was on the T43 and the KV-13, something like the T20 at 160 penetration, so on and so on and so forth. And even the current T34-1 in the Chinese line had 175 penetration. So 155 penetration feels a little bit light to me, and that problem is exacerbated with the handling of the gun. It just does not have the accuracy, and because it can fire intra-clip so fast, you're going to be spraying shells all over the place. In fact, a lot of long-range sniping, which you're forced to do in the tank because of its incredible vulnerability, more on that in a moment, it feels like a bad Panther at times when you have to aim in intra-clip. When you're firing the clip, you should generally expect only 2 out of 3 rounds to penetrate, maybe 1 out of 3. I oscillate between aiming in between each shot and aiming on the first shot and just letting them fly on the second and third shot. The Chi-Ray's platform is less amazing than you would hope for. It's a very tall tank, and the tank has paper-thin armor. And I mean paper-thin armor. A lot of people talk about the FCM as being a paper tank, but the front plate on the FCM is going to bounce now and then. The mantlet on the FCM is good enough for strong hull-down play, and those things are missing from the Chi-Ray. I mean, there's just no protection at all in this tank. The tank has an underpowered engine, but it makes up for it with good terrain resistance. So on flat terrain, you're not going to notice too much of a problem. However, climbing up hills, it's very lethargic. The low engine power also means there's problems with acceleration, both getting in and out of cover. The tank itself can't do any scouting role with any effectiveness. Don't try. It's basically relegated to a second-line sniper. But when you look at it as a second-line sniper, it's easily one of the worst in tier, probably even behind the Panther. It just doesn't do anything well. You're not going to land a ton of shots because of the accuracy, poor gun handling, and the intra-clip problems. And due to the platform itself, both the acceleration and the lack of protection, the darn thing doesn't brawl either. If you add it up, it's just a quirky tank without a home. I love autoloaders. My garage is filled with autoloaders. I had high hopes for this tank, and it just kind of let me down. In fact, this is the game that I scored in the Imperial Steel event, so I actually won 2,500 gold for this incredibly unimpressive game. Because apparently, not a lot of people can even make this tank work. Hope you enjoyed. Happy hunting.